So,
Yes, you got to do that. Guys, welcome. It's Tim O'Connor, and it's Tim O'Connor for Liberty. And guys, one of the things that excites me the most about what's going on in our state right now is so many people are waking up to the fact that liberty is in jeopardy. Period. So I've assembled a group of super people who are ready to fight for liberty. And guys, if you have interest in participating in these things in the future, get at me, let me know. Remember, the likes, the comments, the shares are very important for other people to read and learn and experience liberty. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that liberty is different for everybody, and everybody can kind of play a part, have some fun, meet people if you want to, don't meet people if you don't want to, but we can put many hands on the wheel and get this to work out. We can move New York State in a direction of more liberty. So the first guy, the guy that's driving, I want to give him the opportunity to speak first because he's driving and we want him to survive his activity spreading liberty. So Daniel Donnelly, if you don't mind, why don't you introduce yourself?
sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Donnelly. I hail from Dutchess County, where I chair the affiliate there. And I was not expecting this conference today, but Tim O'Hara asked, we exchanged a message and he asked me on. And Tim O'Connor, for those who do not know, is uh, he's like the Larry King of the libertarian movement. So when he asks you for an interview, you go.
I love it. I love it. That's giving me too much credit, but I appreciate that. So, guys, you know what? Let me circle around everything to everybody. We've got Emmy Dayton, the chairman of the Wayne County Libertarian Party. We've got Brian LaRusso running for office in the town of Hartwick. He's a Republican. He's trying to shape things up. We love what he's doing. Certainly, the Otsego County Libertarian Party has been proactive with his campaign. He's also proactive. He's hosting an event that links Dan Donnelly and him, but we'll get to that in a minute. Brenda Hansen led the charge in Cattaraugus County to for it to declare itself, and Brian, I think you're going to love this, to declare itself a constitutional county, that some laws, period, do not need to be enforced in New York State. Emmy Dayton, Wayne County Libertarian, Rich Bertel, Tioga County Libertarian, running for office right now. Also, the Legislative Affairs Committee Director, who he talked me into going to an event last night, and he owes me one for that. And guys, Emmy Dayton, I can't he's a guy like me. We do construction, we do contracting, we enjoy spreading liberty, and we have an absolute blast. So that's who you have with you today. Dan, where are you driving to? What's going on?
I am headed to pick up the man himself, Mr. Larry Sharp, in the belly of the beast, New York City. Yes, well, and I should be on time. So right now the traffic is good, but it was probably a good thing I spoke first because I'll be, if it continues, I'll be stopping soon to pick up Mr. Sharp.
So one of the things that I want to point out about Mr. Donnelly is that he is one of the hardest working libertarians that I have ever seen in action. He does things to spread liberty. He's proactive. Like, look, it's Saturday morning. Does he have to drive and go pick up Larry Sharp? No. He's making a sacrifice for liberty and helping spread the message. So whether you decide you want to vote for Larry Sharp, whether Larry decides to officially declare that he's running for governor or not, Larry has some great ideas, and I hope everybody checks them out. So I think, and Brian, I hope you don't mind, but I think I'm going to go to Brenda next because I want her to tell this story. I think it's very compelling. Are you ready, Brenda?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right.
Okay. So, the story started back when the COVID era began in 2020, and I initially reached out to our county legislators, realizing right off the bat that we were heading in a wrong direction. I mean, some of us just knew that right from the beginning. We just could sense it. And my initial contact with the county legislators was rather hostile. I was I was coming to them rather aggressively, demanding that they just say no to everything. And so it started out a little bit hostile. And as time went on and I continued to engage with them, I realized that they actually understood where I was coming from, and they were on my side. And so somehow we had to find a way to become allies rather than adversaries in what really ended up being pulling the load together. It is interesting right now that it seems that um, the powers that be want us to be divided. Um, and so we have to be aware of that. But anyhow, earlier this year, we started a little group here in Yorkshire, New York, down in Cattaraugus County. We're almost into Erie. We're in the northern part of the county. And the group is called We the People. And we developed a petition um, requesting that Cattaraugus County declare itself a constitutional county. And so it was well embraced by people in the community. People really, really liked the idea in Cattaraugus County. I mean, not all of them, of course. There's pockets of people where we just are going to have to deal with. Um, but it was something that really gave. So the people in my group, they really wanted to be involved, but they weren't sure where to start. So this gave them something to do, and it also gave them something that they could use as they interacted with people to educate people about what it was we were trying to accomplish. So we got the petition signed. Not that the petitions were necessary. We could have pursued this without the petitions, but it just helped to build a base of support as well as educate. So we contacted the legislators, and they weren't meeting yet in person, so they were still Zooming. And so that was my first thing that I said to them in June was I said, "What are you guys doing? We're supposed to have access to our government, and here you are on Zoom." So they responded very quickly. By the middle of July, that session was open back up to the public, and I was invited in to have privilege of the floor during their committee working sessions, and I shared the vision that we had for the constitutional county resolution, and specifically shared the request that they change their mission statement on their website. So the mission statement on Cattaraugus County's website was awful. It was all about being really an enforcement arm of Albany, and of funding, that their main job was to secure funding. And so I challenged them on that. And they understood what I was saying and what our group was saying. And so after having privilege of the floor, the next week, they voted, or I'm sorry, the following month in August, on August 25th, with the leadership really of Ginger Schroeder. So there's 16 Republicans and one Democrat on the Cat County legislature, and Ginger spearheaded this. And she gave an amazing speech. If you haven't seen the video put out by Chautauqua Updates with Ginger's speech, I would recommend that you check it out. And it was a beautiful night. It was really very profound to hear, and even the Democrat in the group stood up and said some words about his support for this. When I was first approaching the county, I realized that there were a couple of things going on. One of the things was there's this fear of Albany, and the fear is all based on the funding. So we've gotten ourselves in a real mess here in our state because of the funding. And it's going to be a long time on uncoiling this and finding creative ways out of it. But I really think that step number one is figuring out a way to at least acknowledge that the funding is chains, it's bondage. And
Brenda, may I
changing
may
that.
I kind of ask you a question or two? Talk about this
Sure.
because I ran for senator, New York State Senate, in Senate District
Mhm.
51 last year, and one of the issues that I really tried to hammer home was the fact that our county legislators serve the state. They don't
Mhm.
serve their communities. That they go out, they chase down what I would call like you're saying, money, grants, things to do
Mhm.
infrastructure projects. They sell our property to like nonprofits. And they're serving virtue, they're serving the state. And I just want people to understand that I'm so happy to hear you say exactly that. Like I'm ecstatic by that.
Well, thanks. And I think we have to have a long view of what's going on here. It's not going to be we pass one resolution and now we're back to normal. It's really important, I think, to realize that we, the people, have how many of us can even name our local legislators and name our town officials? We don't even know their
Okay.
names. So we've really stopped engaging in the process, and the process has gone in a very, very bad direction. Now we're waking up to that, and we have to start engaging again. And we have to realize it's not just let's get to the next election cycle, let's pass one resolution. This has got to be a long-term commitment that we all put our best foot forward and we start pulling the load in the direction of liberty and developing pockets of liberty. I mean, the authoritarianism coming down from the state and the feds um, is very disturbing. And so we have to have these pockets of liberty that we're cultivating now. And I think that I am concerned because people don't really understand the process. They think that you just or the complexities. Maybe that's the better word. They don't understand the complexities. So what I've run into since the resolution was passed is a variety of things, but probably the primary thing is frustration that people think, oh, this resolution was passed, therefore no more masks, no more vaccine mandates. We just ignore the state totally. And the truth is that that's not, unfortunately, what the resolution means. The resolution is a first step, not the last, and it's framing the fight. It's a declaration of our ideals that we want to pull the load towards, but it doesn't have the teeth that everybody thinks it has. And so we just need to be aware of that and then realize that after the resolution is passed, there's a two-pronged approach I think we need to take. One of them is we need to get more counties. And when I say counties, I mean rural counties. I think spending our time in Erie, Monroe, the downstate counties, right now, it's going to be a waste of our time and it's going to actually perhaps sabotage what we're doing. So we need to focus on those counties, those 44 counties that are like less than 200,000 people in population, and get these county legislators to start interacting with one another. So if they can start passing these resolutions and then start interacting with one another, because right now they're quite isolated. They're swamped. The state is great at doing that, swamping you with paperwork and details that just drive you crazy. And so we need to get these legislators to start communicating. Um, and then we need to start asking them to take the next steps. The next steps would be things such as litigation. So Cat County is pursuing litigation against the state for the vaccine mandates. They've got 2 county owned and operated nursing homes that are affected by this. So they're pursuing litigation, which is expensive, which is risky. You might lose, but also you incur the ire of Albany. And right now everybody just wants to fly under the radar. And meanwhile, Cat County is saying, hello, look at me. We're gonna have an argument with you. So that's their next step. Other next steps would be nullification,
We like
refusal to
nullification
comply
too.
and to
We like
enforce.
nullification.
Mhm, mhm.
Do you mind if I turn the
And of course,
floor over to?
nullification.
I'm sorry. Do you mind if I turn the floor over to Brian for a few minutes? You're welcome to hang out. We'll let you get some more stuff in, but I want to get words from everybody. I think that's going to be an important piece of what we're trying to do here. Brian, I think that you have found a kindred spirit here, don't you?
I actually do. I've been following County's movement and momentum. I have a question. Do you think you would have been successful if you had a 50-50 split, Democrat, Republican?
Well, it would have depended on the Democrats. I mean, I like to think that there are still some local Democrats that have not gone completely progressive crazy. So it would have depended on the nature of the Democrats. I think obviously it would have been. I don't even know that we would have gotten it. You definitely need leadership from somebody within the legislature that really gets them all. Even the Republicans at first were reluctant. So without the leadership of Ginger, I don't even think we would have gotten it with Republicans.
Awesome. Well, it's a great first step, and I agree with you. The rural areas need to start banding together. I'm not even a big fan of these representatives. I think we should be going back to a board of a board of supervisors. We have 24 of them in our case in Otsego County. What do we need these reps for? Um, you know, uh, Yeah, fine. They're the connection to the money in Albany, but ultimately, you have supervisors that know your towns, supervisors that are running the show. So what are these guys here for? Other than, Tim mentioned, I found that most of them are tied into real estate and um, the land banks. And honestly, I'm watching them. I don't think we're running a county. I think we're running a real estate company. So I'm definitely for streamlining some of this. I watch you look at history, you talk to DPWs, and we used to have a hell of a lot more screw turners, the guys that get the work done, than we did administrators. Today we got more administrators than screw turners. And I think it's sucking the life out of the counties. For a bunch of people that wind up weaponizing, and I'm not saying these things aren't ideas, but they wind up weaponizing these land banks and this real estate stuff. In Otsego County, we have, they're reaching around and patting themselves on the back for creating this tiny little village behind the jail, for homeless people, while they're foreclosing on people, making them homeless.
I love that point, Brian. Oh my God. And plus, Emmy, this is one of those things where we can all just go and shake our heads because, Emmy, if we wanted to build micro homes for homeless people, the odds of us successfully navigating the course through the local government would be zero. Like, I literally don't think we could do it. What do you think, Em? Like, could we actually get that done?
Not right now the way we're standing. No, they block everything, and right now, Brian was talking about the real estate company of our government. We've got landlords that are getting, they're going to be getting foreclosed down here soon because they weren't able to collect our rent. There's going to be a bunch of stuff that the government and banks are going to be picking up, I think, here in the near future, and making more homeless. And just like Brian was saying, this is a bad conundrum, and the government never looks at the unintended consequences and side effects of what can happen when they make a decision like that.
Well, look at everybody, how they say, we need more affordable rentals. We can't find anywhere to live. We can't find anywhere to rent. Do you think that renters, I own a couple rental properties. I'll never rent them long term. You want to come up for the week, you rent for the week. But this is just going to make long term renters go, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. When the government can tell my tenant, don't worry about it, don't pay for it. So it's going to make the housing market for renters worse. It's going to make, it's going to put, owners. It's going to put a lot of foreclosures on the plate because they're not getting paid. It's baffling how the government, once again, all good ideas, they get totally bastardized, and they get abused. And I don't know if it's by design, which I believe it is.
It seems like it. I agree.
I mean, it takes some doing to think about, those outcomes and go, all right, this is how we're going to screw them.
Yeah. Let me talk for a second about why I decided to do this. I have had people reach out to me and say, how do we change this dynamic? How do we fix this problem? And this, guys, that's why I reached out to you guys and asked you to join me and join us and get together on this. I'm not trying to take the lead. I'm trying to say, here's what people are doing. I want it to be hugely successful. Rich Pertel. Oh, by the way, welcome, Craig Colwell. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. You're going to get some time to speak. Rich Pertel, legislative affairs expert, period. He has some thoughts. Put you right in the spotlight, Rich, about how tax foreclosures are going to explode. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, could I first kind of combine some of the excellent comments of Brenda and Brian?
Please do. Please do.
So I live in Tioga County, and Marty Sabry is our elected chair of the county legislature. The legislature elects their own chair. She was just elected president of the New York State Association of Counties just a couple of weeks ago. And I agree completely with the comments of Brenda and Brian that the county governments are an arm of the state. They don't, we don't have a home rule approach in New York. The county governments are too much an extension of the state government, and they're weak and inept and tend to go with the flow and don't push back enough, et cetera. But just a quick comment, there's a group called the New York State Association of Towns, and I've heard comments from people in planning and such that they seem to be more influential. And I think it would be very helpful for us to try to connect more with that group and improve the power of town governments. And we need to maybe get the Association of Town to compete against the Association of Counties with more pushback against the tyranny that Brenda spoke about. So now, yeah, to your point, Tim, about this setup we have for tax foreclosures, and Brian mentioned the land bank system in New York, that could become more poisonous as time goes on. But we've seen it here in Tioga County. It's been a big problem in Otsego with Robert Force, Save the Force Farm, and especially down in Long Island. Tax foreclosures and surplus proceeds theft, where the county government puts a property up for auction and sometimes steers the auction so it just goes to their pet, developers. As Brian said, these too many people in real estate interests are in county governments, and sometimes they sabotage the whole system. So they try to get the property cheap and then send the poor homeowner away broke, or even if there is surplus proceeds, they don't give it to them. So, for example, let's say someone has a house with $150,000 in equity and they owe $10,000 in back taxes. The property could be put up for auction. Maybe it only sells for $30,000. So they should be owed $20,000, but sometimes they don't even get that. If they really went for a good, strong auction with lots of bidders and a good competition and drove the price up, maybe they'd get close to the full equity that they have in the property. And again, they might get a fraction or none of it. The fees are too high. The interest rate can be as high as 20%. That's the cap. I'd like to see legislation in New York to cut that ridiculous figure down to something like 6% on back taxes. So they can't drive up the, if you owe for 2 or 3 or 4 years, you're not looking at taxes and fees that could be, double or triple what your original taxes owed were. So it's a growing problem. It's going to explode, I think, when this ridiculous eviction moratorium ends and we come out of it. And Brian made the point too. What's going to happen to the rental market? People are going to sell their properties because they just don't want to deal with it. They're going to do Airbnb and short-term rentals instead of long-term rent. And that's going to make it difficult for people to want to rent an apartment. So there's a lot going on, and most of it's not good.
Yeah, can I jump in for a second too? Brian and I live in a county where there are, I am sure, thousands of homes that have been abandoned and are falling into disrepair. It's a brutal situation, and to watch the government get involved in the home construction business is amazing to me. It's offensive to me, and it's when we're chasing people out of New York State by the millions, that's a real problem. And also, guys, I guess Brendan dropped off. She's welcome to rejoin. I just want to thank her for joining us this morning. It is incredibly important that we spread this message of liberty. Emmy, I haven't heard from you much yet. And then Craig, you're up too. What do you think about this? What can we do to solve this problem? What are you doing specifically? Let's do that too, because you're on it.
Well, I personally have been kind of all over the place in my county, dealing with trying to help out Moms for Liberty, make noise as far as medical freedom and anti-mandates go. I've been contacting back and forth with my assemblyman, which you guys met last year, I think it was.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He is, yes. And that's what I think everybody needs to do is really, get in touch with your legislators, whether it's through email, give them a phone call, especially in the rural areas. where they don't get a lot of noise or pushback from their constituents. What was it? Tom Stevens said that we start emailing them with things that matter. They're gonna get used to not hearing from the crazy lady with 800 cats or whatever.
Exactly. That
So,
was a great line. Yeah. Cat ladies
so
will
we've
run the
got
world if
to,
we're not careful.
yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And I love the constitutional county idea. I'd like to know more about how to get that going too.
I did share a link in the chat for people if they want to take a look at what Brenda has laid out and the process that she followed. That would be great, guys. So Queeter just joined us. He's got some big events, and now I feel bad because I'm going to skip Craig. But too bad, Craig. You're up. You'll be up in a minute. I promise. Queeter, welcome aboard, my man. How are you today?
Tired, Ken. We were up late with campaign work again.
Wonderful. I think that's great. I think that brings the world some energy, and we appreciate it.
Looks like I'll be seeing you Monday.
That's what I'm hearing, guys. Otsego County, Brian. This is going to be at Brian's facility, by the way, guys. Which is, I mean, it's a mess hall, but I don't even know what. Like, it's he's in it right now. It's a beautiful facility. It's going to be very enjoyable. I can't wait to hear Brian speak. I can't wait to run my mouth and thank the people of Hartwick for their support in the past when I was running for Senate. And guys, we're going to get a taste of what Brian's up to. And that local organization stuff is absolutely impressive. So, Queeter, you're going to be there. You're going to bring some fire, I think, right?
I usually do. I've got an event
definitely
tonight,
do.
a lunch party, and then I've got the event with you and another event in Portland on Monday. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'll be at Speedy Fest.
Wonderful. Guys, let's do a little shout out to the people in the audience with their great questions and comments. Michelle Ann, great fan, great supporter, great libertarian, asked, let's see, where's her question, guys? This one's important, and so we're going to kind of talk to Brian and Brenda about this one, I think, right? How can Allegheny County follow Cattaraugus County, and would you like to help? I did post a link so that people can explore what you have already put out there.
So I've been in contact with a couple people in Allegheny County already. Actually, I got a phone call from one of the legislators. It was a month or so ago. I'm trying to remember his name now. It'll come to me. But I talked to him, and he seemed interested. And I got in touch with. He asked me to get in touch with the chairperson of the legislature, which I did. And I told them if they were interested in having me come down and do a presentation, I'd be happy to do that. I haven't heard back from them, though. There is a website that I put together. I shared it. I don't know quite how to get it on the link there, but I shared it. And it's got step-by-step instructions on kind of how to go about this. It includes PowerPoints that you can use to communicate with fellow citizens, and a PowerPoint that you can use to communicate with the legislature or the Board of Supervisors also. And so there's a bunch of stuff available on that website, goconstitutional.weebly.com. It's just a simple website, but it's got a lot of information on it. I'd be happy to do whatever I could to help other counties. The primary thing for counties to do, for the citizens of counties to do, you have to have a leader in your county. You have to have a couple of people that will take the bull by the horns and go forward.
Wonderful, thank you, Craig. We got to let the people hear you. Are you ready to kind of offer what you're up to and a little bit about who you are?
Well, I guess so. I kind of have a question for Brenda real quick, though.
I love it. It was going to be a hot topic today. I knew it.
I'm in Chemung County, and I know there's a group here that is doing the constitutional petition thing. Is that what you're involved in? Are you in touch with the people here in Chemung?
So I've been in touch with a couple of people in Chemung, not a lot, just a couple of them. But I will tell you that one of your legislators did reach out to me. I think it's Chemung County. Is that where Jim Brennan is?
No, it's Joe Brennan, actually.
Oh, Brennan. Yeah. Okay, Joe Brennan.
That's
so
okay.
I've had a little bit of contact with Joe Brennan, not just via electronically, but he reached out. And I think what Joe would really like is to have some interaction with the Cattaraugus County legislators.
Okay.
So I've got to talk to them and see if they're, there's a little reluctance. I think everybody's just cautious.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a good first step for Chemung. But I have been in touch with some of them, yes.
Well, I'd heard a good amount of it. I've signed the petition myself, but I haven't really been involved in the organizing of it. I know the people that are. It was kind of an offshoot of a group that I've been working with Joe Brennan on the legislature. We've been showing up to legislature meetings and trying to we spoke for over an hour, everybody 5 minutes at a time, about different mandate topics and stuff last time. And now, right before, when we sent them a letter recently stating that we wanted them to be a constitutional county, they all of a sudden made it so we can no longer attend in-person legislature meetings. So we're holding a protest on Monday, Monday or Tuesday, for before they get to the legislature house, to make them see us, make us see our signs. Hopefully we'll get the news there and let them know that the legislature, besides Joe, are ducking us and won't even let us speak to them directly, basically. So I am involved with that group. I'm not really leadership with it. Me and Joe, there's a group of us that have been working on getting candidates together to replace these legislatures next year. And I'm part of that group. We have 8 or 9 people to try to replace as many of the 14 other ones as we can. And a lot of the people that are new to this the Liberty movement, even newer than me, anything politically really, are surprised when they say, well, how many of the legislators are Republicans? And we say 12 out of the 15, but they don't do anything. They just do what the state says.
Yep. Well, I gotta interrupt. We have.
I know you do. I do it. Go.
Oh man,
lay it out there, Brian.
Dude, this one is a real hot topic for me. We've been working. We started that page, Patriots for Medical Freedom.
Yep.
We got 3,400 people as of last night. It's around 5 weeks old. We have written, not only me, I've written 2 letters to our representatives. I know other people in our old guard group has written to them. Not one response from our sheriff, not one response from our reps. And this, I apologize. I got one response from a radical Democrat in Oneonta who told me he loves the vaccination and to stop emailing him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't really even care who's running against them. These people have been in these offices for 8, 10, 12, 16 years. I am every one of their opponents. Every one of them. You know what? It's time to flip these guys. It's time to get people in there. I would rather a new face than a two-faced.
Yes.
Oh, that is fire, brother. I love it. I'd rather a new face than a two-face. Queeter, I think you and Brian actually have something to talk about right now because you are running against an entrenched political machine. And I don't know, maybe we find some common ground here. What do you think, bud?
Well, Tim, I'm running against a different entrenched political machine now. I've seen the 2 proposed redistricting maps. They both conveniently cut out Brim County and put what would be my opponent, endorsed by my opponent last time, out of my district. They don't want to fight me anymore. And we're talking about Republicans who don't seem to vote Republican. Isn't that interesting? That's why I like to say, vote no incumbent. Doesn't matter who it is. If they've been there for a long time, just vote for anybody. Put Mickey Mouse in, he'll do a better job.
Yep, that is the truth.
It really doesn't matter. I look at this from a very natural perspective. I come from a family that lives on the land. I know how the forest works. When the old wood grows up, it shades growth, and it's supposed to fall and die. It's supposed to go down so that new growth can come up. And you can see the same thing in government when it functions properly. That's why we're supposed to have community involvement with our government. That's why anybody is supposed to be able to run for office, because we need that new growth that brings innovation, new ideas, and gets rid of stagnant old concepts that are obviously failing.
I think Rush wrote a song called "The Trees."
Yes.
Oh yeah, that is a great song. I'll see if I can find some quotes from it. You guys keep talking. I'm writing something. I'm copying down your quote, and I want to put it on the screen because people are gonna love it.
Multi-term incumbents are just deadwood. Get rid of them. They're not doing anything. They literally do nothing.
Yep. And honestly, if people think about this, and I've been putting this out there, if you vote for these people, just because you're Republican or you're Democrat, if you actually vote for them, you're literally approving them not standing up for you. You're literally approving that they didn't scream at Albany to get rid of all these nurses and all these bus drivers and everybody else that's going to get affected by these mandates. You're literally saying, yes, thank you for not helping.
Yeah, you're right. 100%. Thank you for taking our money and doing nothing.
Right.
Thank you for wasting our time.
And by the way, I'm $1,000 behind on my taxes. Could you take my land too, please?
I mean, I laugh because it's so painful. I don't know what else to do.
It's so true. It's so true. It's frightening.
100%.
All right, Queter, I really want you to talk about what's going on with you specifically this weekend. So people who are listening, and there are a lot of people out there, guys, this is wonderful. What are you up to, let's say tonight? What are you up to, let's say Monday, for example? Let's talk about what you're doing right now.
Well, first I'd like to point out my shirt. Cuomo's got to go. And he resigned. But there's a problem still. We're left with the status Cuomo. People who behave the same way. People who follow the same line of thinking. I mean, we saw the lieutenant governor take over and double down. And we're not seeing the legislature do anything about it. Again, vote no incumbent. Vote no incumbent for the legislature. Just don't do it. I've got my campaign launch party this evening, starting at 6 p.m. right here in Mount Upton. Nice local restaurant. Larry Sharp's attending, and we have a Libertarian on the line for Guilford Town Board. Jennifer Casey, 9-year veteran, familiar with all kinds of government waste. And one of the statements she made to me was, I served my country for 29 years, and I come home and I find it's not my country anymore. It's not the same thing. It's not the same place, and we are losing our rights. She wants to bring transparency back to local government, which is something here in Guilford, which probably not different anywhere else in New York. Not so there. Monday, I've got a couple more events with Larry, one in Cortland County, and of course one with you, Tim.
Actually, it's with Brian and Tim, and it's going to be at Brian's place. I don't know if you caught that from earlier in the show, but it's.
I did.
Okay, good. Yeah. So
thank you for hosting, by the way.
Oh, what's that?
I just thank you, Brian, for hosting.
Anytime.
Yeah, Craig, what's up, buddy?
I do want to kind of point out, you guys are probably going to be in my district this time around.
Good. All right, Craig, what do you got?
I was just going to point out that Monday morning he's starting out in Elmira with me, and then going to see you guys.
All right.
So we got a pretty good event going in Elmira too. I've been promoting that. So
yeah, a little shout out to Joe Hanush, who is a former Libertarian candidate for something. I can't remember what, but I know he's ran for office. I know he's a big fan of Larry Sharp. Thanks for joining us today. I think that the likes, the comments, the shares, that will help us spread liberty. And Joe, if you want to join in on one of these things in the future, you let me know, because if we have fun, if we spread this message and people kind of participate, this is a pathway to, I see, let me comment all the way through this, all right? I see a lot of groups out there. I feel that there's a certain amount of fracturing, a certain amount of deliberate, like, okay, your specific issue, like get excited, collect 40 people. You get excited, you collect 1,000 people. You get excited, you collect 80 people. But we all have a slightly different message. And I even attended a group thing last night at the behest of Rich Bertel, and this is where it's coming in. I loved what they had to say, but some of it didn't fit what I call specific libertarian philosophy. But I would be able to express to them that a desire for freedom would serve them and help them with their causes. They have some very specific causes. They are I would say they lean very hard towards the religious end of things, which I respect and admire and have no problems with. But they're issue-based organization, and I think sometimes issues divide us from freedom. Like if we say, okay, I'm scared of people in New York City having guns, we give up something of freedom, right? Like, do you guys understand where I'm going with that? Anybody want to comment on that?
Yeah, well, I would actually, Tim.
All right.
With regards
Ryan,
to
you
those,
can be next, bud. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brett. Tom.
with regard to those who are religious and the health mandates that we're discussing, it's no wonder that they're against it. It's no wonder that it's a little religious. And me personally, I'm not religious, but Rich and I attended a protest last week. I mean, I can't say I'm not religious. I'm Christian. I just don't like the higher up.
Yeah,
But no wonder that those with religious values are first to be against vaccines. It's a very obvious talking point for them, and it's a very obvious. Sorry, my volume is feeding back. Okay, so we were against medical mandates at the protest we were at, and there was a lot of religious rhetoric going on, and that's okay. We have a freedom of religion. Just because their concepts come from a religious base does not mean.
I agree. Brian, I felt like maybe you got cut off there. Were you about to say something at the same time as Tom?
No. I actually had someone walk up and talk to me. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's wonderful. So
if I can, Tim, what you can do in organizations like that is you can do what Rich and I did. You can take your own message, and our message was anti-mandate and pro-liberty. And guess what? They loved it. They loved the pro-liberty message. Just because they're religious or just because they're whatever doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Go to the thing. Say the thing. Do the thing. And you will grow liberty. You will grow the liberty movement just by talking to people.
I think that I've been seeing, I've been pointing out to a lot of people that, this particular mandate is now affecting many people, like our gun rights. It doesn't affect everybody. Everybody doesn't own the black scary gun. So it really doesn't engage them. But now that we've got all of these nurses and I mean, in essence, everybody in every industry being affected, I think it's a good time to make them understand that this is just one aspect of your rights, like your 2A rights, like your property rights, that it needs to be driven home. Because even though the black scary gun, for the 2A, rights doesn't affect you, it does because it's your rights. It's all of your rights, whether you're a gun owner or not, whether you're a nurse or not, whether you're a landowner or not. These are your rights that are going to be stripped from your children that will never know what rights were about if we don't fight. I've been actually, I talk to a lot of people. I work in big, I work for the military, and I've been talking to them about, what is the answer to this establishment crap? All right. And Republican, Democrat, I'm so disgusted with my party. But what I've been telling people is, you want to know what I believe the answer is? Locally, countywide, I think we need more libertarians. I really do. It's look at it like a scale. You got the Republicans and the Democrats on one side of the scale. We need libertarians on the other side of the scale, right? Just to try to control some of this tyrannical crap. It's unbelievable what's going on, and that is resonating.
Yeah, I want to drop a truth bomb, and I want to kind of summarize what you just said there. And then I'm going to ask everybody for a comment on it. Okay, the issue of medical freedom and religious freedom are tied together. Okay, but the reality is, to me, okay, that we should fight for those things, but that is not enough freedom for me. And that's a reality. They're using it as a trick and a trap. You saw our elected leadership and our executive leaders say, hey, you religious kooks, your rights don't count because your leaders endorsed the vaccine. So the truth bomb is that's still not enough freedom for me. And what do you want to say about that, Brenda? I just kind of want to hit you with it.
Sure.
Break your lap.
So liberty, I would look at liberty as the source of our liberty is the creator. And so I don't see a separation between the liberties that I fight for and the creator that I worship, from whom those liberties flow. And I think that we do need to have the big view that you're talking about, and that the issues, while we have our conversations about them, the big view that liberty has been endowed to us is what should tie each one of us together to continue the battle forward. We want the marketplace of ideas to be diverse because we are a people that value liberty, and therefore we shouldn't shrink back from our differences. Really, the right in the United States is way more diverse than the left because we have diverse ideas, and we do have to make sure as we face issues where we have differences on them that doesn't become grounds to end our common fight of standing and pursuing liberty. That is the thing that does tie us together from all our different backgrounds and worldviews, is that we love liberty.
Yeah. All right, let me turn it over to Brian. Like, give us, you had a great one-liner earlier. I'll put you on the spot right now. Give us another great one-liner. Fire it right off. Put you under pressure.
Listen, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, if we don't fight back now, I mean, listen, we're late. We're already late. I think maybe our generation. I'm 51 or 2 years old.
Don't admit anything. 29.
But ultimately, if we don't fight back now and stop this, it's done. It's already halfway there.
Yes.
250 years ago, it took force to stop this.
You're concerned that may end there as well, but we're going to cut that thought off just a little bit because social media platforms tend to overreact to conversations like that.
Here's how I believe for Hartwick, we're going to stop the land grab. I think as a board, if we get our whole team on, I think we can actually pass a protection law or a protection act. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to create a fund. Now, whether that fund comes from a half a point on the sale of a home in a tax, and I know we don't like hearing it, but what that will do is when my neighbor gets behind on their taxes by $3,000, the town will cover that. All right, we can lien that property. We can lien that property to protect our town's money's interest, but we can stop the county from taking it.
I think that's a really creative solution. And of course, you said tax, so I automatically recoil in horror. But I get it, man. I get the idea of protecting our neighbors in a much better fashion. I really do.
What it does is it stops it from getting to the county. All right, you owe $3,000. I mean, we heard that story Robert Force, for example. You've been using Robert Force. All right, so not saying his town's going to do this, but my town, I know we have. Well, let me put it this way: our board, since 2018, never certified a law. Some of those laws involve taxes. The county foreclosed on people because they couldn't pay their taxes based on laws that never even existed because they didn't certify them.
You are making a great point. And guys, if you can join us Tuesday, I'm going to make Brian speak at the event that he's hosting. I'm going to speak. Larry's going to speak. Queter's going to speak. We have the possibility of Victoria Alexander showing up. This is going to be epic. Craig Colwell, not enough freedom for me. What do you got to say about that?
Is that Tuesday? I was told it was Monday.
It's Monday.
What did I say? Yeah, it's Monday. Don't listen to me. Check the stuff I wrote down. Don't pay attention to me.
You mind if I go, Tim?
I am. I'm ecstatic that you're going to be there, brother. Let me get back to Craig. Craig, not enough freedom for me. What do you say?
It's kind of going back to what Brenda was talking about, and maybe a little further back in time frame of this pandemic. But like when they were shutting the churches down, I was fortunate enough to be at a church that did shut down 1 week, but our pastor said never again. And we had quite a few people there ready in case the county showed up, because the week before they'd actually blocked the driveway to our church for Easter back in 2020. The county sheriffs, our Republican county executive, Republican sheriff were blocking our church because they knew we were going to try to get together, but we didn't. But our pastor the next week said, we're not closing again. You might be going to jail if you show up. And we had a couple hundred people, and it was still, I know that's not necessarily all the freedom we need, but that, even if you're not a church person, we can't allow the government to close free assembly, churches, whatever it is.
I might have showed up for that, to be honest with you. Guys, as I've been clear about, I'm not a particularly religious guy. So, but I do find value in Christian philosophy, and I do find wisdom in Christian philosophy, and certainly the notion of freedom. If you guys were going to take a stand against an oppressive state, I might have just went there and enjoyed myself. Queter, what do you say? Not enough freedom for me. What do you say?
Oh, well, I have a couple things to say.
I know you do, man. I know you do.
Brian was talking about gun rights earlier, and there's a slogan we hear regarding our gun rights. A slippery slope. Doesn't it seem like all of our rights are on a slippery slope right now?
Mm-hmm. Certainly are on a slippery slope. I agree with that, brother.
And we do need to think about that. The road to liberty never ends. It never ends. And the work of doing the vigilance is key. And that's what everyone needs to continue to do. That's why we need more participation in government. We need more people running. We need more libertarians, but, we need better Democrats and better Republicans.
Amen.
That's for
Amen. Yeah, brother. Well said.
The other thing I want to point out, as Rich was pointing out with some links, medical mandates are abortion coercion. While we haven't had broad stroke mandates like this in the past so much, what we have had is medical force. That's existed forever. We've experimented on our own military. That's a proven fact. We've experimented on our own population.
Yep.
And in regards to the COVID-19 vaccine, which I personally, I feel if you want it, get it. If you don't. But I got a story for you. I'm currently raising money for a gentleman who has CP and epilepsy. And his doctor advised he got the vaccine. And he did. Now his doctor is apologizing up and down for advising that, because the coercion part of this actually led that doctor to make a bad recommendation. And Bill Snyder had 5 seizures after that vaccine.
Oh, man.
5. There are people who need to be advised to not take any vaccine. That is a thing. And the vitriol and the rhetoric that they are drumming up in our community has bus drivers, as Jimmy can tell you, attacking autistic children.
Thank you. The politics are so divisive right now. It drives you hit a nerve. I apologize for interrupting you, but man, the politics are so divisive and so authoritarian that I just literally lose my mind, and I want to emphasize what you're saying right there, Tom.
I just want to leave you with one last thing. Ask yourself, imagine you're a doctor. Imagine you got into this to help people. That's your profession. That's why you do it. And you turn around and realize, I allowed the government to coerce me, to force this gentleman or to coerce this gentleman to take something that gives him 5 seizures.
Yeah.
Imagine how that poor doctor feels.
I agree with you. So to try to keep it light and move on, because I want people to ponder what you're saying there, but I also want to we're getting close to the end of our scheduled allotted time. So I want to hit Rich with this is not enough liberty for me. What do you say, bud?
Hey, so I posted a couple links on the vaccine issue. You know, that's been a problem for years with children, childhood vaccines, and pretty much every state has mandates, and there's three exemptions: religious, medical, and philosophical. Now, philosophical, essentially, you can erase the mandate. So the philosophical has been, I think they've pretty much all but disappeared in most every state. But that's the best way to nullify effectively the mandate. But yeah, the last couple of years, so my daughter Amanda lives in Mississippi. You think of them as a pretty, religious conservative state, and they got rid of their religious exemption. I think last year. New York State was in 2019. We got rid of ours. So, that was the foreteller when they killed it for childhood vaccines in 2019. You had to expect we weren't going to get much support on that for this COVID-19 vaccine either. So. It's a huge problem. It's been coming. Really, I go back to 1986 when the federal government passed a law to create special liability for vaccine manufacturers. That was really the start of this whole train wreck. I think we've got to really get back and cancel the 2005 PrEP Act and try to get back to normal liability for any medical product, especially vaccines.
Thank you, Emmy. Not enough freedom for me. What do you got to say on that one, bud?
Of course there isn't enough freedom for me. And something that a lot of people can do is just stop complying. That goes for our sheriffs, our troopers, our teachers. Everybody needs to just say no. We're not doing this. We don't want to be mandated and forced or coerced into anything that has to do with our own body. If we're not hurting people, we're not taking their stuff. Leave me the hell alone.
If we're not hurting people and not taking their stuff, I love it, my man.
Hey, I'd like to say something. I'd like to say something about the sheriffs. I called on our sheriff to uphold the Constitution. All right, in regards to all the loss of our healthcare workers and now putting people in jeopardy. I've called on them to. I literally called on our sheriff to arrest Tommy Ibrahim or whatever his name is of Bassett Hospital for the first death that happens due to this mandate, and they're firing people. They're putting people at risk, and the sheriff has a responsibility. I sent this to Carpinelli, and Carpinelli sent it back to the sheriff of Otsego County. I'm calling on people to pressure the sheriffs to make arrests. Let Tommy of Bassett Hospital, let him fight his way out of an involuntary manslaughter charge.
I like it. Guys, we have someone else joining us. Jennifer Williams. Hello. How are you this morning?
Good. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Sorry, I'm entering a little late.
That's okay. We're going to wind it up soon, but we want to give you the floor. If I guess correctly, you're with Moms for Freedom or Moms for Liberty. You want to tell us more about your organization?
Yes, we are Moms for Liberty. It's a national organization, but organized at the local level by county. And our mission is to get parent choice and parent voice back into public education. I'm sure, as you all know, the progressives have taken over public education and have had it well in hand for 30, 40 years now. But with COVID especially, they have really ramped up the effort to take over control, even more so, just like what you guys were even talking about earlier. Really centralizing education or the things that are taught to our children, and specifically trying to get parent voice out. Even this week, I'm not sure if you saw it, there's these organizations that, we talk about the teachers unions, and they're definitely dangerous to our public education. However, there's two other organizations that are equally dangerous, and because they're in cohorts with the teachers unions, we're really fighting against a real powerhouse. I don't know, consortium. I don't know what you want to call it, but
it's a special. Can I call the teachers unions, because I know teachers. I met a teacher last night. Okay. the teachers union is a special interest group,
Yes.
period. Okay. And the special interests that they're invested in are not necessarily serving our children.
No.
Can I point something out real quick?
Please.
I believe teachers are forced to belong to a union. I don't believe they have a choice in New York State.
I
A
agree
lot
with
of
that.
workers do not have a choice. A union is supposed to be voluntary. It is no longer a union when you are forced to belong to it. And if you know people who are in that situation, my own mother is one of them. They don't like their union. They don't like having to belong to it, but they're forced to.
Yeah, we're finding that a lot. Yeah,
Rich Patel has some
Hey,
information about that, Rich, right?
For the record, I pulled my last 3 out. I have 8 children. The last 3 are out. We're homeschooling. Between the CRT crap that they just introduced and all these mask mandates, and who knows with the vaccines what's coming down the line, we pulled them.
Yeah.
They can stick that jab.
Yeah. I need a mute button when you're on sometimes, Brian LaRusso.
There's this other organization. It's called the National School Boards Association, and they do have just like the unions do. They organize more at the state level and at the local levels as well. But the the National School Boards Association issued a letter to President Biden September 30th, basically requesting federal assistance and law enforcement to help combat the parents who are causing a physical threat to Board of Education members. And they specifically asked that Moms for Liberty and other liberty-minded organizations currently in the fight for public education be declared domestic terrorists.
Wow.
Welcome to the club.
We're
a
lot of us are libertarians, so we've been there for a while now.
Yeah. But parents, I mean, I understand, I guess, I don't know, but I mean, when I see these people, their parents, their grandparents, me, middle-aged woman, and I'm now supposed to be considered a middle-aged terrorist because, and then the letter even said is because we're causing a grave threat to the students. Those are our children. You're basically saying because we're threatening or we're speaking at a Board of Education meeting that we are threatening our own children. It's not even logical, let alone constitutional or liberty. It's bizarre. It was, I guess, I mean, I understand, the rhetoric that's out there, especially with the progressive left and all that, but to take it to this extent and just blatantly say, parents are domestic terrorists simply because they want a voice in their kids' education, I don't know. It was, they basically want us arrested just for showing up for a Board of Education meeting.
Do you mean to tell me that the school board wants to remove your right of free speech?
I know, shocking, right? Yeah. A couple of months ago when we first started showing up, because COVID, shame on us for not being more involved, but COVID did wake up a lot of us because we were seeing what was happening with our children. The fact that they even closed down the schools and are now, forcing masks, especially here in New York State. It was like, whoa, nope, overstep. And so we started coming into the Board of Education meetings. And at first it was, oh, thank you for coming. We've been so lonely here. Parents haven't been coming to our meetings. And to a very short period of time, it's, you're a domestic terrorist, don't come back. It's, I guess maybe that's what's more shocking to me than anything is just how quickly the welcome wagon was, taken away to the point of if you show up, we pretty much want you arrested and, charged with domestic terrorism. All while BLM, well, I mean, we all know, what happened, the summer of 2020 and, celebrate them and the destruction that they're making. Never once were they declared domestic terrorists, but a mom with a piece of paper trying to make a 3-minute speech is now a domestic terrorist.
It's an amazing and interesting time we live in, guys. We've been at this for about an hour. We don't want to wear out our welcome on social media. Let's try to do some closing remarks and do me a favor, try to take it like a minute or so. And Jen, I'm sorry that you joined late. I will be doing more of these in the future. I 2 people in particular that were going to join were unable to because they were traveling today. So I want people to hear from them too. William Van Helmen. Oh my God, he'd kill me if but Van Helmen and Stephanie Connick Jackson. We're going to join us today, both very proactive, have groups that are forming, looking for some more unification towards liberty. That's one of my goals. Jen, we'll give you the first closing remark, okay?
Thank you. Yes. Even if you pulled your kids, and I 100% understand why people have pulled their kids out for homeschooling. I'm a proud past homeschooler, and I think it's honestly awesome. However, I do feel at public education, the majority of our kids will remain in public education, and so we cannot leave that institution to the progressives. So please consider joining, or at least paying attention to what's going on in your local school districts. Go attend your local Board of Education meeting, and you might actually be shocked how progressive it actually is, and how offensive they find us parents.
Yeah. Local impact. Brian LaRusso, what do you say, man?
Well, I agree.
No swearing.
I just handed over $23,000 yesterday in school taxes, and have no kids in there, so I will be staying, involved. I think after we get past our November elections, we need to start looking at flipping these board members on their rear. We don't have a choice if we want to say in the education. I also think we need to start working with people in regards to educational centers. I'm not going to call them schools, for alternatives. I also think we should start seeing more boutique medical centers. We all grew up going to your doctor's house. I went to my doctor. Right? I
have a doctor like that. He's awesome. I'll send you the information. He's the absolute best. Go ahead.
But at one point or another, if this is how it's going to be, then we need to start taking care of ourselves, because we are apparently the terrorists.
Apparently.
And where are we going to go? Where are our children going to go? I have a daughter-in-law that's going to have a baby in 6 months, and I'm seeing social media posts that they're not letting the parents have their child unless the parent is vaccinated. Now, I think that's hype. But I don't know, and I wouldn't put it past them, because we've seen stuff like this. I got to tell you,
in Australia, brother.
Someone's going to pull a Denzel Washington if they think they're going to keep a baby over a vaccination.
Greg Colwell, what do you got? Closing comments. What are you up to? I know you're running for office. Tell everybody about that too.
Oh, well, not till 2022. I'm working on a campaign. Getting a campaign started for county legislature. I messaged. Spoke about that a little bit earlier, that there's a group of us that are trying to flip the legislature so we could make Chemung County the freest county in the state, because right now they just follow the governor's lead. I didn't really have any other closing statements. So much of this stuff is just so flabbergasting, and like you say, you just got to laugh because it just pisses you off so much. But you can't go around threatening things like.
Yeah. Queeter, what do you got, man? Tell people where they can find you this weekend and in the coming days, things like that.
Well, if you find my Facebook page at Tom for 52, you can find the event for tonight. There are still some tickets available. Not a lot of them. It's a small place. This is just a launch party. It's intended to be for volunteers and locals. But you can find me at your event on Monday and another event on Monday. Both are on those pages. But you can really find me at tomfor52.com, TOMFOR52.com. I've already raised as much money as I had by July of last cycle, and this cycle hasn't even started yet. So I'm going all after it. Now, I want to remind people the reason that the legislature keeps its power is because they keep getting voted back in. And the reason they keep getting voted back in is because we're not thinking about what they're doing. We're not looking at what they're doing. Those voting records are online. You can look at them. Look at them, look at them, look at them. That is how you know what your representative is about. Because he's going to lie to you every time he's standing on stage. Or he's going to pull on your emotions in a direction every time he's speaking on stage. He wants you to be the peasants that go, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. But the fact is that you have nothing to thank them for. You're paying them. They're public servants. They work for you. Remember that. They work for you. Vote no incumbent. Thompson52.com.
Wonderful. Do I got it right down there on the screen? Can you see it?
And Otsego County, any Otsego County people watching, every one of your county reps is up for election this November. Make sure you get out there.
Uh-oh. We
Rich
lost Tim.
Patel, legislative affairs expert, closing comments.
Just to piggyback on the comments about public sector unions, I had an op-ed in the Binghamton Press last Sunday about that topic, and one plank of the National Conservative Party platform I agree with. I'm a libertarian, but this is one plank I strongly agree with the conservatives, is that public sector unions are a total conflict of interest. It starts with the teachers, but really all of them. The concept is toxic because what you've got is if they gain strong political power, they're voting to put people in office to set policies that then extort taxes from other people that don't get a say in the matter. So it just ends up with a very toxic effect. So those of us that truly work in the private sector, which is becoming fewer and fewer every day, we're getting strangled and suffocated by taxes to pay for people that are voting people into office to work against us. So it's a terrible feedback loop, and it's got to stop.
It's the authoritarian spiral, brother. We're circling this drain, and it's just accelerating. Authoritarian decision after authoritarian decision. Emmy Liberty, what do you got, man?
I like everybody's initiative here. Moms for Liberty, the constitutional counties, everything that's going on. This is an awesome panel of people. And also, you can join Moms for Liberty. You don't have to be a mom. Can be a dad or a grandparent or whatever. So there's that. And yeah, just the government right now, they're not doing what they said when they said that they defend our constitutional rights. So we're going to have to defend them ourselves because they're failing us, and it's our turn to step up. And all these different groups need to band together. There's a lot more of us in this coalition than there is of them.
I agree. Brenda Hanson, Constitutional Cattaraugus County closing remarks. 1 minute. What do you got?
Sure. Well, I think I'll end with this. A couple weeks ago, I was listening to Candace Owens, and she was talking about how there is a pandemic in this country. There's two of them, the pandemic of ignorance and the pandemic of cowardice. And so I think that what we need to be pursuing excellence as we craft our arguments, and we need to be brave. And courage begets courage. And so the people around us, if they see us being brave, some of them will be courageous also. And we need to be optimistic. We have quite a wonderful message to share with a world that's very confused. And so we should be proclaiming our message proudly and be on the offense and not on the defensive so much.
I love that. Guys, as you know, I am actively communicating the concept that liberty will solve so many of these ridiculous problems. Cooperation, collaboration, and litmus tests, guys. We can use litmus tests against some of these clowns. Like Brian said, all of them can go. Better a new face than a two-face. I'm totally stealing that, man, by the way. And guys, every single person here, people have asked me what you can do. Every single person in this group, and so many more that didn't even join us today, are taking positive, proactive steps. And you can join any one of us and help any one of us out. Things like a little bit of money, things like showing up and eating some food, things like even sending words of encouragement or sharing videos like this has impact. And you all have impact. I want to thank every single one of you guys. This was a great event. It turned out better than I had imagined. Larry Sharp's going to be around this weekend all over New York State. I will do this again in the future. And you guys all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.